Welcome back, everyone. You are watching Ask the Handicapper. I hope you will enjoy this show. It's one of my absolute favourite shows here on At the Races. And the reason for that is because when I was, once upon a time, a journalist on the Racing Post, the idea of having the chief handicapper of the BHA, or the BHB in those days, in a studio being grilled by a mouthy presenter would be something of fiction. But have a look, there he is, Phil Smith, the chief of handicap. Are you well, Phil?
Top form, thank you.
Because to be fair, if we were dating, I would have ditched you by now because you have not turned up for the gig a couple of times, for very good reasons, I hasten to add. It wasn't for you had other fixtures, but we've missed you for quite a long while now.
Well, I like to keep them wanting more.
Well, to be fair, you didn't do that. I would have just ditched you. But let's get straight into it. And a completely off-the-cuff start, because you have annoyed me by not turning up for the last two gigs. So we actually are going to just completely go away from the flat season, just because this question, I like the question. I totally appreciate for the time of year, this is irrelevant and a nonsense, but the question is the key, not so much the subject. Because this came in straight away from Stuart Akister, I'm going to go with, it could be Akister, but Stuart, yesterday, who simply said, why do you play God with the handicap marks for the Grand National? And I like the expression of holiness in there, and because you do come across sometimes as if you feel you are God, Phil.
Well, I'm sorry if that's the image I put over. All I'm trying to do...
You're not denying it then, you're just saying you're sorry if it's the image.
I'm sorry if that's the image, because all I'm trying to do is produce a competitive race which encourages good horses to take part, and where you get a full field, where you get all of the horses in the handicap. And if that's what's been achieved over the last 15 years, then I'd plead guilty.
Guilty you are then? Well, that's a bit harsh, isn't it?
I think what the question is trying to get out is I play around with a pound here and a couple of pound there with one or two of the marks. I do that, I think, for very good reasons, because most of the horses that enter the Grand National, their form is over 3 miles. The Grand National is a very special race. It's over 4.5 miles over completely different fences. So I just make adjustments of a pound here and a pound there. It's actually fairly trivial. I used to make much more significant changes, but over the last few years, I've not actually needed to do a great deal. There's some fantastic horses entered into it, and it usually looks a competitive race. This year's winner, I think, started at 33 to 1. So he was a tricky, handicappers always like to think that they set a puzzle, which the public find difficult to solve, and I think the public found that difficult to solve.
Okay, how's your Bet365 betting account getting on, Phil?
Well, I don't have one.
Come on, it's me you're speaking to here.
Are
you still going down the I'm a handicapper and I'm not allowed to bet line?
I'm a handicapper.
Okay,
and I'm
if you want to stick to that, that is fine by me. Pat Cooney from Bet365, who's a good lad and has some sensible comments, has said on Twitter, how will you arrive at a new rating for the Eclipse 4th Countermeasure? Let's just remind viewers that Countermeasure couldn't win a handicap off a mark of 79 2 runs ago. He was put up £2 for losing, and now he's lost again. What's his new rating?
Okay, his new rating is 110.
What? You mumbled that through as if you were embarrassed. What was it?
Oh, you knew I'm not embarrassed.
No one even heard that.
His new rating is 110.
110 for a horse who couldn't win off 79.
Let me explain. Okay. First of all, it's not my race. It's my deputy Dominic Gardner-Hill's race.
So you're already...
No, I'm not.
Already swerving it and blaming one of your colleagues.
I'm not blaming him at all, because it's clearly a tricky old race. And Dominic and I spoke at 8 o'clock on Monday morning about this race and another race that I had, which I also thought was tricky. I had another race, the Lancashire Oaks, which was also tricky, not quite in the same way as Dominic's. So we sort of basically picked each other's brains, what to do. So obviously, the Countermeasure is a rogue in there compared with all the other horses who all go in rated at least 110 or, so certainly into the hundreds and so on. And he's rated 81. First things first, if you look at his last second in a handicap, you wanted an explanation, you're going to get it. You could actually have him higher now because the form of that handicap has worked out quite well. But that's only a small thing. What do? We've got two alternatives, haven't we, really? We actually go through the race looking at the horses with established group form, the Gurkha of this world, time tests, etc., or we go through countermeasure. Now, we decided, rightly or wrongly, having discussed it, that the distance he was behind, he was 4.5 lengths behind Hawkbill, the winner of a Group 1. That's £8 over a mile and a quarter. That's not up for debate. It's £8. So if we go through countermeasure on 81 and we leave him, that means Hawkbill has run to 89. Do you believe that? Do you believe that Hawkbill, winning the Eclipse, has performed to 89? Do you believe that the Gurkha, a half a length behind, has performed to 88? Do you believe that Time Test, is 85, whatever? Do you really believe that? Nobody believes it, right?
Nobody believes anything you're saying at this minute, Phil.
No, they do.
This is ridiculous stuff.
It's not ridiculous.
No one.
It's not ridiculous.
Have you not looked back at Countermeasure's past form?
We totally look back at it.
Let's just go through a little bit of it. Last of 4 at Dieppe.
He's changed yards.
Beaten 18 lengths at Deauville.
He's moved to a new country and a new
Beaten
yard.
50 plus lengths behind New Bear Longshot. And you are telling me this is suddenly turned into a 1-1-10 horse as a pacemaker?
The reality is that horses often run well, or better than they appear to have been able to, in group races, right? That this happens. They're generally small fields, and sometimes horses are flattered. Do I think Countermeasure was flattered? I actually do, and this is how we.
You actually do.
I do think he was flattered.
So why have you put his mark on 110?
Well, we think he's got a performance. If you put your chart back up, right, we believe his performance figure in the race is 114, and we've actually moved him to 110. Why have we chosen 110? Right, partly because we're not sure that we believe it. Right? But more importantly, the connections now have got a choice. If they want to, they can still run him in a handicap. Right? If they want to, they can run him as a pacemaker next time. Presumably, if the ground is okay for time test, they'll go to the Judmont, so they can run him there. And this has been the case with pacemakers in the past, haven't we? If you remember, think back to Frankel in the Judmont and Bullet Train in that race. I put Bullet Train up, I think, £5 or £6 for his performance in that. Now, I had Frankel performing to the same level as he had in the Queen Anne, which was 140. If I'd gone through Bullet Train's 107 or 108, I'd have had Frankel performing to 134. Would anyone have believed that Frankel was £6 below his best?
No, you asked
for an explanation.
I can't let you continue.
No, you're going to get the explanation.
Cannot.
Full stop. Does anybody believe that Frankel would have performed to 134 when he won the Judgment? Nobody would have believed it. So Bullet Train went up for that. Countermeasure has done the same thing. What would have happened, right? Let's say Countermeasure sadly might have injured himself and doesn't run again this year, right? And he ends the season on a figure of 81, which we keep him on 81. The Eclipse next year would be in danger of being downgraded. Is that a good idea? Do you think it was such a bad Eclipse
Phil,
that it should be downgraded?
You cannot try and fool our viewers like this. You and I both know that the Eclipse downgrading happens over a period of time and is not judged on one season.
But it would be in danger.
You trying to fool our viewers?
So now let's look at international handicappers.
You will come up with anything over this, won't you, to defend it?
There's a whole host of reasons.
It takes at least 3 seasons before a Grade 1 will be downgraded.
Correct.
You know. So don't try and kid our viewers that it will affect next year.
But it will affect it down the line.
It won't.
It's got 3 years of that figure.
And do they take the first 3 or 4? 4. OK, so Countermeasure's fourth, yeah? But you've still got 3 horses, 1, 2, 1, 120, 110. It will make no difference.
Yes, so you take the average of it. But let's now look at international handicappers. What the world...
We've dissed that idea completely.
No, we haven't dissed it.
We've blown
I've
blown that excuse out the water.
Not at all.
You
but
tried
that's not
to
a priority. That's not a priority. But it's not a thing. Now let's look at the...
Why didn't you just ignore Countermeasure, Phil? You didn't need to judge any of the race through Countermeasure. You can put him up to 85, whatever you like.
Okay, but so let's move. Okay, let's do that. Let's move into 85.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And next time he takes on Bravery, right? Who finishes last in this race? And Bravery has to give him £20.
I would say both of them will get beat.
So Bravery has to give him £20. You think that's fair when Bravery's been absolutely stuffed out of sight by Countermeasure? Do you think that's a reasonable thing?
Well, A, it's not going to happen, and B...
But hang on, I go back to the international handicappers. I'm looking at my international system here. Now, Dominic's gone 122 for the winner.
To be honest, after that race, I would drop Bravery to about 50.
Well, that's a decision that is left to Gary O'Gorman, thankfully. So Hawkbill...
Not what you said about Darman King.
We've given Hawkbill 122. These are the figures for the winner across the world. France 121, Australia 121, Dubai 121, Brazil 121, New Zealand 120. So they're all within a pound or two. These are the figures around the world for Countermeasure, right? We gave him a performance figure of 114, but we've put him to 110. France, if he was running in France tomorrow, he'd be on 113. In Australia, he'd be 113. In UAE, he'd be 113. In Brazil, he'd be 113. In New Zealand, he'd be 111. So can all the world's handicappers all be wrong? All of them?
Well, I don't believe that they haven't taken your advice. As you well know, Phil Smith, again, you're fobbing our viewers off.
All that Dominic has done, he's put a figure on the system.
As you well know, Phil, I need to make this point, and you are not to interrupt. As you well know, when it comes to foreign racing, you do not rate the foreign horses without speaking to their handicappers first.
Well, I don't know whether Dominic's spoken to anyone, but let me just put this about the independence of foreign handicappers.
Because when it comes to the classifications, you say, I can't rate the Japanese horse until the Japanese handicappers have made their mark. That's what you say.
Nobody but nobody would ever tell Greg Carpenter, the Australian handicapper, what he could and can't do.
Okay.
Nobody would ever do that.
No. In your heart of hearts, is a mark of 110 for Countermeasure, is that horse likely to win next time in a group race, which it will have to run in?
Well, if he ran in a Group 3, he may well do.
So you think Countermeasure will win a Group 3 next time?
He's rated to win one. He's only 4.5 lengths behind Hawkbill. I think everyone knows that Hawkbill is a decent horse. We've got Hawkbill as the 7th best Eclipse winner of the last 10 years. So below average, but by no means the worst Eclipse winner of the last 10 years.
Can I ask you a different question? Is Countermeasure the best pacemaker ever to have run in the Eclipse?
Well, I can't remember where the Bullet Train ran in the race.
Even though it was beaten off a mark of 79 2 runs ago?
Well, that's what happens. Horses change, horses improve.
So this is one of the fastest improving horses we've seen in recent seasons?
Well, I think this... I suspect when this horse runs at York, which hopefully he will with time test, right, I suspect he'll run a decent race. And we'll then have more data.
We can't go on forever, Phil, so we'll have to agree to differ.
Let me just finish the thing off.
Can we agree to differ?
We can agree to differ. But let's say Countermeasure next time runs a lesser race. Then we've got more information and we'll adjust his handicap mark. I don't really think that Juddmonte are going to be too distressed about their horse becoming 110, right? I don't think that's going to...
Juddmonte aren't going to care.
Exactly. They're not...
Well, that's not what... That doesn't matter.
So, well, they're not going to be too upset about it. But let me give you an example.
Well, that's because it's going to be running as pacemaker for time test.
You sometimes get... In the 10,000 metres at the Olympic Games, you sometimes get a slowly run race, don't you? You know, often get a slowly run race, and all of a sudden you have a runner in the race who's the slowest of the 12 qualifiers in the final, right? And he's 100 to 1, right? And yet, because it's a slow run race, he manages to hang on and somehow flukes a bronze medal, right? Does he get to keep the bronze medal because no one believes it?
Yeah, but he doesn't. His rating won't go up.
Of course he does.
Because no one is stupid enough to take it literally.
He gets to keep the prize because he's got his own...
Countermeasure has kept the prize. He's kept £28,000. But his rating doesn't need to be. Look, can I just ask you this? Have you ever said this in your life before, Phil Smith, chief handicapper? Yeah. Have you ever said, you know what? Our group and graded racing, we often have small fields. Don't worry. Don't worry, folks, about running your low-grade horses in these races. We won't take that form literally if you run a ridiculously good race. It'll be just nice to see a few more runners in there.
This is a wholly different case.
So I'm just asking, have you ever said that?
We have said it.
OK, cool. Yeah. Enough said. Right, let's move on.
I don't believe that Connections will be too distressed about Countermeasure being 110.
You know that is a different argument. You are like a politician. This is like Brexit in here. But it's not Brexit. We're talking about a horse, Countermeasure, which you and your team have related ridiculously, and you've done it, and you were embarrassed because immediately you named and shamed the man who did it.
Not in any way embarrassed.
You didn't even support your teammate.
We did it as a joint effort. He phoned me up, asked my advice. He said, this is what I'm thinking of doing. I said, you're absolutely right. That's exactly what I'd do.
Your first words were, I had nothing to do with this.
I didn't say that.
It said all I needed to know.
I didn't say
Your
that.
first words were, this isn't my patch, it's so-and-so.
I take full responsibility for it. It's a team game and I'm the boss.
As Jake on Twitter has just said quite rightly, and you are brilliant on this show, But Jake, as we go for a break, has hit the absolute nail on the... Phil has lost the plot.